Okay, folks, I'm going to get started. Firstly, good afternoon. It's just barely afternoon. My name is Terry Biner, and I'm the Dean of the Bowen School of Law. I'm joined today with a couple of other folks from Bowen. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. First, our Dean of Admissions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erore Abu, and as she mentioned, I am the new Dean of Admissions.
Melody, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, my name is Melody Weigel. This is the face to all of those emails that you have gotten. So welcome. I am the admissions and record specialist here, and you're a go-to person if you have any questions at all about getting started in the fall.
And we're joined by two Bowen students, one who joined us from out of state, and one who lived out of state for a period of time before moving to Arkansas. So Cody, why don't you start and introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Cody McKinney. I'm a concurrent student at the Clinton School of Public Service and Bowen, and moved to Little Rock from Nags Head, North Carolina. And yeah.
Lisa, want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Lisa Rome. I am or I guess a 3L after we get our grades, and non-traditional student. I lived in a couple different places, so and also was involved on campus, so that's kind of been a great experience as well. But.
All right, well, welcome everybody. This session is designed to basically give information to folks who may not be native to Arkansas or be less familiar with Arkansas, although we're going to be open to any questions you might have about what the experience is like here at Bowen. I'm going to hand this off to Dee Nobo to talk a little bit with our students as well as herself about her experience, but she's actually one of our graduates as well who came out of state. So I'll let her begin by talking a little bit about what made her come to Bowen all those years ago.
Sure. So I'll start with a little introduction of myself. As she mentioned, I'm from out of state. I'm from New Jersey. I was actually born in West Africa, so I'm definitely very far from home. And my family and I traveled around a little bit. I guess home really would be Miami, Florida. I've also lived in Brooklyn, New York. But I called Newark, New Jersey home. That's where I spent most of my formative years. After graduating from Science High School in Newark, I started working for Newark Public Schools, which is the district that I graduated from. I worked in human resources that summer before going off to Temple University, which is in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I went to school and I came back to Newark and I went to school. Really on the holidays, I'd come back and work in HR, and that's sort of how I got on the path to where I am today. After graduating from Temple University in 2009, I continued my education to get my master's at LaSalle University, which is also in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And after graduating from LaSalle with my master's in industrial organizational psychology, I continued working in human resources before my friends sat me down and said, it's time for me to go to law school. That's something I had been pushing off for a while just because I was intimidated by it. Everyone knew that I wanted to go, but I was just like, maybe I'll just wait to see what happens. So I started my research, and I was looking for something that was going to be cost effective for me, being as I went to Temple University. Although I did get a scholarship, it wasn't as helpful as I wanted it to be. But I also did have a master's degree. And so something that was very cost effective for me was top priority for me. And as I started doing my research, I found Bowen, and Bowen became actually my top pick, really. It had pretty much everything I was looking for. It was not in the New York area, which was also a top priority for me. I just wanted to get away from the distractions of family and friends. I wanted to get away from the noise and the smog of New York City. I just wanted to be able to be in an atmosphere where I could focus on my education. They had the programs and things like that, the courses that I was very much interested in. Because of my background in psychology and counseling, I was more so interested in ADR, which is alternative dispute resolution. and employment law as well. And so those things all really very much attracted me to Bowen, as well as the tuition, which I found to be amazing. And so when I came to visit Little Rock, I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, I grew up in the Northeast, and so our impression of anything outside of the Northeast is like nothing land. And so when I came here, I saw that there was life, a good life, fun life, and friendly people. I figured this is something that I could do. And so I committed to Bowen, and I didn't look back, and I was happy. So that's, a little bit about me and, how I became a part of the Bowen family. And now I'm working for Bowen. So very happy to be back home, very happy to be back working with the family. So I'm going to now transition. And of course, all of you out there, if you have any questions for me or for the other people who are out of state as we're going along, I'd be happy to answer them for you. But I'll go ahead and start, and I'll just throw this question out there to anyone who wants to go ahead and answer. Just tell us where you are from originally, where you did your undergraduate education, and what it was about Bowen in Little Rock that attracted you here.
Sure, I'll take that question first, I guess. So I was living in Nags Head, North Carolina, and I was a firefighter, a full-time firefighter for 10 years. I did my undergraduate while I was working at the fire department and working ocean rescue. I did my undergraduate through, I started a community college, I got an associate's degree, and then I got a bachelor's of health promotion from Appalachian State University. And so I was a little bit similar, as I wanted to go to law school, so I took the LSAT. I did, so I got that out of the way, and then I was looking for a school that could give me some kind of competitive advantage in the job market. And so my whole background is in public safety, which is a branch of public service. And so I found the concurrent degree program with the Clinton School of Public Service and realized that it really was a unique situation. And I told my wife at the time, I mean, we lived in Nags Head, if you're not familiar, is on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, right on the coast. And I told my wife, I found the program I want to go to, but it's in Arkansas. And she's like, well, we should apply to it. If it's really the program you want, we can always move back. So we started there, and I applied to Bowen, and I applied to 9 other schools. I think it might've been 10, I can't remember, but I got into all of them, got competitive offers from each of the different schools. But as I really started thinking about it, I really was trying to justify going to other schools of how it compared to the concurrent degree program with the Clinton School of Public Service and Bowen. And in the end, it just was the right choice to me. And like was said before, cost was part of it, is that with scholarships and cost of living in Arkansas, it was that was a benefit, but it really just basically came down to the program, is that I loved my career as a firefighter. I love firefighting, love the guys I worked with. And if I was going to stop doing that, I really wanted to pursue something that meant something to me. And so that's what brought me to Bowen.
I'll go now. My name's Benny. I'm from Greeley, Colorado. I was in the Air Force for a while. I did that while completing my undergraduate degree. I originally started at New Mexico State University, but in the military, you have to PCS a lot, move around a lot. So I ended up moving schools quite a bit, and eventually I went to American Military University to complete my undergraduate degree. When I originally got out, I decided to go back to school, and I was going to University of Northern Colorado. I came back home. I was pursuing an education in biological sciences. And at the same time, I wanted to pursue law school, but at the same time, I had to convince my wife to to let me go. So that was the challenge that I faced. And, through that time of talking, praying, and everything with her, we decided that she'd be okay with this. I took my LSAT. And then when deciding which schools to apply to, cost was a huge factor for me. But also area. And I really didn't know anybody else that went to law school other than 3 individuals, and those 3 individuals all went to Bowen. I went to high school with all three. They're the Audrey Trevino, Brandon Trevino, and the twins. And then so I reached
graduated
out
with
to
their
them.
sister.
Oh, you went to school with their sister? Okay. Yeah, she
Those are
graduated.
infamous at Bowen.
So I reached out to Audrey and I asked her some questions, and she gave me some good answers. So I definitely applied to Bowen. When I got accepted, I was like, all right, I got to check them out. So it was between Bowen and Wyoming. Bowen had the better cost of living, and I have friends down there at Little Rock Air Force Base. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go for it. So we closed on our house June 4th. So we're pretty excited. We're going to be in Cabot. It's just, obviously you guys probably know where that is. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm pretty excited. Kind of nervous. I drove through Arkansas one time when I was driving from Michigan down to Texas when I was stationed in Texas. So kind of nervous, but I look forward to it.
Well, welcome,
His
Benny.
house was, I was going to comment, Benny, that my husband, he was in the Air Force, and I can confirm that Cabot is a very healthy community of folks, Air Force folks and veterans who are living off base. So you'll be in good company up there.
Right on.
Awesome.
Lisa, you want to share
Would you
your
like to share?
I can go. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me or no?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, sorry, my internet's not the best. I'm Megan. I'm from Austin, Texas. I decided to go to Bowen because I have family that lives in Alexander. And the cost of living was like really good in comparison to the other schools I was looking at, which I want to go into some public service jobs, so having less debt would be really useful in getting those kinds of and keeping those kinds of jobs. So I guess that's really why I decided to go here.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Lisa, would you like to share with us?
Sure. So I had a couple different careers, and I'd kind of always considered law school, but I kind of just had a lot of excuses not to do it. And I had something that kind of really pushed me, somebody I really wanted to help out, and I couldn't. So it was encouraging to kind of look at the prices and find out that, well, at the time I was living in Arkansas anyways, and to look at the prices and just figure out that Little Rock, where, I mean, everything is, all the courthouses are there. I mean, it's just the capital, all of the events are there. Little Rock had the best price that I could find out of any of the schools that I was looking at. And then on top of that, it was, what really drove me to law school was like more of a public service type of thing. And I mean, that's one of their core values. So it was just kind of like the stars were aligning for me. And I know that during my visits, I got to meet a couple of people from the staff, and they were just so nice. And I can be pretty timid and bashful sometimes, and I just felt comfortable. So that was a reassurance. And then we kind of went back and forth, and when I got my acceptance letter, but once I got the scholarship, on top of Arkansas having great cost of living, and then the tuition and the scholarship, it was just like, I think this is all the signs that I need. So, I mean, I'm excited with my decision, and I mean, I enjoy Little Rock. We thought that we'd just be here for a little bit and then move back, but my husband's already kind of like, well, we could stay here, and if you find a good job, I would be fine with it. So, we're excited with where we're at, and it was a great decision for us.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks so much for sharing. Yeah, cost of living is definitely something that I think a lot of times people don't consider when they're looking at professional school. And something I always tell people when I'm counseling them, meeting with prospects, is just because you go to law school doesn't mean that life stops. You still have to put gas in your car to get to class. You still have to buy food for your belly, in order to get the energy that you need. And so cost of living is definitely a key component that you want to consider when you are weighing your options of where it is that you want to go to law school. So I'm very glad that they touched upon that, as well as, you know, the distance to where you're going to law school. That's, you know, certainly a key component as well. Another stressor that, you know, comes to my mind, because I lived in the Northeast and I know just how bad traffic can be up there, is just, you know, you don't want a lengthy commute. For example, my father commutes 2 hours to work every day. He works in upstate New York. And so, you know, that's sort of a stressor for him. And any kind of way that you can reduce the amount of stressors that you have is definitely going to be helpful to you. So thank you all for sharing. Dean Biner, would you like to share?
Yeah, sure. I'm an out-of-stater too. I came to Arkansas via, so I grew up in New Jersey. I've already, Dean Nobo and I are from the same county in New Jersey. Woohoo! Okay. Go figure. Go figure. Yeah.
And I didn't know that until after I graduated.
Yeah, so I graduated from high school in the suburbs of New York. I went to undergraduate school in Virginia. I went to law school in Chicago and worked in Chicago for a year after I graduated from law school. I lived and practiced law in San Francisco for 4 years before I moved to Bowen 25 years ago now. So, and at that point, I was spending 4 years in each place. I'm like, so we got to Arkansas. I was like, we'll spend 4 years in Little Rock, right? I'm here 25 years later. So that's an indication of something good going on here in my estimation. So I've lived in major metropolitan areas, and one of the things I love about Arkansas is I'm 10 minutes from work. If you know, I have 3 children. If somebody forgot their lunch at school, I could drive home, get their lunch, and bring it to them, be back at work in 30 minutes. And in most parts of the country, with any kind of major metropolitan area, you can't do that. At the same time, we've got all the advantages you get from being in a metropolitan area that's a capital city. So Bowen has incredible externship programs where students get the opportunity to work in federal and state offices for federal judges, state judges, for the public defender's office, for the prosecutor's office. Our students are working as Rule 15. They're practicing law while in law school. They're public defenders while in law school. They're prosecutors while in law school. They also work in a variety of state agencies and nonprofit organizations. So we have students at Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families, which is an advocacy group for families living in poverty. We have students at the ACLU of Arkansas. Whatever your political position is, we'll probably have a nonprofit organization where we're sending students to go ahead and shadow those lawyers and help with their practices. So you really get that hands-on experience, and we definitely take advantage of being in the capital city. Along with that is our students have a lot of work opportunities while they're in law school, because we are, you know, the legal capital of the state as well. There's a lot of opportunities to work for law firms or small firms. I've had, you know, non-traditional students whose whole goal was to hang out their shingle and be a sole practitioner. And during law school, they worked for 3 or 4 different sole practitioners, getting a sense of what those practices looked like so they could develop the kind of practice that they wanted when they graduated. Those kinds of experiences are not present at all law schools. I've worked at 3 different law schools, and really the experience here at Bowen is very unique in the sense that you get that hands-on exposure while you're still a law student. So you can kind of choose. You can, you know, you come in thinking you want to be a public defender, you go work for the public defender's office, and you say, ooh, maybe not so much. You know, we have a whole experiential learning curriculum. My favorite is the people who are never going to set foot in court. We run you all through trial advocacy. They go to trial advocacy, and they're like, oh my goodness, I'm a courtroom lawyer. I was never going to set foot in court. And suddenly I want to do trial work, you know? So we give you some real hands-on experiences that are really unique, that kind of give you a sense of what you want to do when you graduate in ways that not all law schools do. So it's a very unique curriculum that's designed from the first year through the 3rd or 4th year, if you're going the part-time program, to get you practice ready. And give you exposure to all different areas of the practice of law. So I think it's a great place to go to law school. Of course, I'm the dean, so it's my law school. But I also think it's a remarkably friendly faculty, and I'll point to Lisa here for a minute here. I taught her class civil procedure, and I think after their first quiz, I met with 85 of them individually to talk about their performances on their quiz. And Lisa was one of those folks who met with me a lot. I don't know that she needed to, but she did meet with me a lot. And I think it might be nice to hear from students about their experiences interacting with faculty. So if either one of you, Cody or Lisa, want to talk about it.
Well, I can go ahead and speak to that. I know that when school started, I'm not a very proud person, but there were a lot of people who just looked like they had everything together. And here I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm reading. I'm Googling half of these words. I can't get through like a single sentence without having to stop and try to figure out what I just read. And so I know that I try to just figure it out all by myself. And after that midterm, literally there was a girl named Apollina, and we would try to meet with Dean Biner every like 2 weeks or so. And she's the dean of the entire school. And we're like, well, we'll just try every so often. And I'm sure she can't do all of them. So we'll see which ones we can, catch her with. And every single time we asked for a meeting, she was there to help us. And I remember one time specifically, she was explaining something. And I was just like, I just don't understand. And she's like, well, what if I write it out? And the same thing that she had been saying the whole written out just clicked. And so it wasn't just they're there to, kind of hear you out and then they're rushing you out. She literally takes the time. And she's not the only professor. You're going to have an RWA professor, and they'll have certain times where you have to meet with them. And it's so helpful. It's so nice to know that the professors want you to learn, and they're really easy to talk to. Most of them are really easy to talk to. Some of them are a little more intimidating, but most of them are really easy to talk to, and they're available, which is helpful. So.
And Lisa, for those of us who do not know what RWA stands for, could you explain to the audience what that is?
Oh, so sorry. So RWA is the research, writing, and analysis. And so it's kind of like, the way I see it is like an English course for law school. And it kind of teaches you how to analyze like an attorney, how to write the things you need to write, like memos or analysis, the way that you would need to as an attorney. And so it's kind of like reprogramming your mind. It also teaches you how to like research. So you learn how to research with like Westlaw or LexisNexis, and kind of how to use those and what they are and what case law is. And so you're going to be in a smaller class when it comes to those classes, obviously, because you're going to need a little bit more concentrated time with the professor, and you get one-on-one meetings with the professor. So that's helpful.
Thank you, Lisa. And Cody, how's your experience been?
So very much the same, is that all the professors are very accessible, and even the intimidating ones will go out of their way to meet with you and to help you through their classes. But what really strikes me is that it's really like a top-down system, is that the professors make themselves available, and then not only, and then there's peer support built into the curriculum. So you have, not only do you have support from the professors and the faculty at the law school, but then you have this whole system of peer support. And there's some that is very formal, and then there's also some that kind of happens because you start, you make friends and things like that. But it really creates a culture of helping each other out at Bowen, which I found really helpful, especially when law school can be a little bit competitive and people can be, looking out for themselves, but having the support built in really helps minimize some of the stresses that you can experience in law school.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all definitely very true. I myself experienced that while I was at Bowen. Just having, 2Ls, having several mentors, look out for me and help me and sort of explain things to me. That definitely helped and let me know that I wasn't in this alone, even though sometimes it felt like I was. And I think that's really a key component of coming to a law school with the size that Bowen is. At a lot of larger law schools, I think that may be harder to find, professors who are willing deans who are willing to, take time out of their busy schedule to explain things to students and write things out and meet with students and make sure that the students are understanding what they need. Similarly, the location of Bowen is in the capital of the state. Just going back to what I was talking about earlier, being from the Northeast, where I grew up, Rutgers Law and Seton Hall are literally like 5 blocks from each other. I could probably walk that in like 5 minutes. And so for them, I can imagine there's a lot of competition for those students, for the opportunities in that area. But here, Little Rock is the only law school, Bowen is the only law school in Little Rock, and it's in the capital. And so whatever opportunities that, the judges and attorneys and law firms and, organizations are looking to fill, they're looking to our school. They're not, looking really to anywhere else. And so I think that's really something that's a great positive. That's something that I really enjoyed about being here at Bowen, is that all of those opportunities are funneling straight to Bowen. And our students do very well in those positions. So yeah. But of course, apart from law school, as I mentioned before, you also still got to live. Of course, you want to balance your studies with, making sure that you are socially connected with people. I know that's something that I sort of left out when I was a 1L, and I found myself not knowing how to carry conversations when I was no longer studying. So what are some things that, Cody, Lisa, you do for fun when you're not in class? Where are some of the places you go to hang out, or what are some of your favorite restaurants in town?
Sure, yeah. So I similar to what Benny was saying, I bought a house in Little Rock before I ever stepped foot in the state. I researched it online. My wife and I purchased the house. We owned it for 2 months, and then I came to Little Rock. So I had no idea what to expect when we moved here, and we've honestly been really pleasantly surprised. Little Rock has kind of like what both Dean Biner was saying before, was it really has all the amenities of a bigger city, but without a lot of the kind of traffic and lines that you'll experience other places. So as restaurants go, I mean, Little Rock's turning into a foodie town. In fact, I read about Little Rock turning into a foodie town recently on one of those lists of new foodie towns. But there really is a great assortment of ethnic food, of traditional Southern food. You can eat out every day of the week and probably every day of the month and never have a good meal every single time and not go to the same place twice if you want. And so that's been fantastic. I like, especially during school when I'm stressed and my face is in books and I'm writing all the time, I like to get outside. And Arkansas is a fantastic place. For those of you that aren't very familiar with Arkansas, it is a hidden gem when it comes to getting outside. There's a mountain called Pinnacle Mountain, which is 20 minutes from my house. I live exactly a mile away from the law school. So I commute by bike. My wife and I share one car. So she always has the car. I ride my bike every day. But there's Pinnacle Mountain I can reach on my bike if I want to. It's a 20-minute drive or about an hour bike. And it's fantastic. It's a quick little hike, but it's great to get outside. There's people out there. And then Arkansas really does. There's rivers and lakes and hiking and camping all around. Pettigene State Park is one of my favorites. If you guys are outdoor lovers and are thinking about looking at what to do, that's a good thing to look up. And so that's usually my go-to, is getting outside. But Little Rock also has some fantastic neighborhoods. I'm very involved in like the neighborhood level of organizing, and so I was really surprised. I moved in, found a neighborhood association within a few weeks, and got involved. And I've met a bunch of really great people here because of just the access that you have in living in a place like this. So. Yeah, I'll let Lisa take over.
Sorry, I'm really bad with this unmute. So Pinnacle Mountain was actually my number one. I live like 5 minutes away from it, so we go there. We like to go there. I also really enjoy dog parks. There's a lot of dog parks, and any time that I need to just relax, like my dogs just really help with that. So just to see them like happy and running around, and you kind of can meet people there too, and you kind of all just talk about, you know, your pets. It's kind of nice. Other places that I like, I wrote down some, and actually wrote down Petty Jean Park. Thank you, Cody. But I also have, for places that I like to eat, they're called a place called Tokyo House, and I'm kind of scared to like share it with the world because it's so good, and I feel like it's gonna get too busy one day. But it is so good. If you like sushi or any type of like Asian food, it's like an Asian buffet, but then they have a buffet of sushi as well. And I'm talking it. Their people are making it right in front of you, and they know what they're doing, and it is my husband and I's favorite. The Flying Fish downtown is awesome. If you like catfish, 42 is like the Clinton. It's in the Clinton Museum, and it's like this really cool restaurant, but at night it's a bar. There's Zaza's salad that I like. I mean, if you ever have any questions, you can come to me. I have a list. But I also just like to be outside, and there's lots of gyms too. So I know that's something my husband and I like to do to like kind of decompress. And so those are probably the biggest things that we do. Mine is like the festivals. We like to go to a lot of the festivals, mostly when it's oriented to food. We like to narrow in on those, but you know, there's lots to do out here, and there's always something, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. You know, you have to balance it. But if you need to find something, there's always something.
Thank you. And I believe Melody actually included in all the wonderful materials that she has been sending out a packet about things that you can do around Little Rock, right, Melody?
Sure. For everyone who is an accepted student, in your accepted student packet, you will have a little about Little Rock flyer in there. If you're still looking for housing, we still have our housing guide on the website as well. So just reach out if you have any questions. Another great thing of finding these nice places to explore is to join some student organizations, and they will help give you a crash course and where to go and what to do, and just explore. But it's all about that balance.
Definitely. Balance is definitely key. So what are some of the things that you found most fascinating about living in Little Rock? I know you mentioned, some people mentioned Pinnacle Mountain, but is there anything else that you were just like, wow, I didn't expect this from Little Rock? Melody, Dean Biner, Lisa, Cody.
Okay, can I say my favorite thing? All right, so this is revealing. Okay, so right now from the law school, I can walk to 3 different microbreweries. Okay, so if you're a brew pub person, this is your town. And that's just a recent phenomenon that we have all these wonderful little, we actually have a distillery within walking distance of the law school, but you didn't hear me say that. Okay, so all these different opportunities for sort of local crafted stuff, which is really something you wouldn't expect in a place like Little Rock. You'd expect it, perhaps, Pacific Northwest if you're in Seattle. But there's a lot of stuff here that is really very unique to Little Rock. That's really great. And, and I moved here from San Francisco, so I'm a foodie, right? So, I'm a foodie. And we have phenomenal restaurants here. We also have a really good food truck culture as well. I mean, one of the festivals is a food truck festival in downtown Little Rock that has, a bazillion food trucks. So there's also a lot of fun food truck stuff. We actually, at the law school, twice a year, we have a day where food trucks are here, and you guys get free lunches from food trucks. We rotate different ones. So there's a really an interesting foodie culture that's developed since I've moved here, along with this brew pub culture that's a more recent phenomenon as well. So that's one of my favorite surprising things. Just to give you a sense, my brother, my younger brother, for my birthday this year, he lives still in New Jersey. He works in Manhattan. He doesn't commute into Manhattan right now, but he did up until this COVID-19 stuff. And he was looking for a place to get me a gift certificate for my birthday this year. And he found actually the Root Cafe, which is a slow food place, a slow food movement place where they do everything locally sourced, and it's great food. And he was like, all right, how come you seem to have cooler places to eat than we do? I was looking, I mean, I had so many choices of interesting places that were local for you to eat that I don't think it's fair. All you've got here is the Olive Garden. Anyway, so there's all kinds of interesting, there's also an Olive Garden. There's all kinds of interesting places that are locally owned that have really interesting food at really good price points. So that's sort of my favorite kind of surprising thing about Little Rock. All right, and then we have homemade gelato, okay? So have a friend at the University of Toledo, and we beat Toledo on homemade gelato. I'm just gonna say that, all right? So I'm gonna let somebody else answer this question.
I'm going to piggyback because I really like the craft cocktail scene, even though they're similar. You either like beer or you don't, but I really love the craft cocktail scene. And another surprising thing about both Little Rock and Bowen is, fun fact, the airport is, you can just throw a rock from the law school and you can hit it. And it is one of those, just let's pretend it's normal times, not like whatever's happening right now. Like if you show up, you're like, I'm just going to roll up like 20 minutes before boarding, you're golden. So if the flights are reasonable, it's close by, parking is reasonable. So because I'm also a transplant, I'm either going home or I'm traveling for work. So it is super like lovely and convenient. They can be like, I can just, either have my family come in or I can go, and it's fine. So I like that part of it. Yeah. And you're always to what's really interesting is if you want to get out of town, like you have all the things for a city that you want, and just pick a cardinal direction and you're somewhere different. If you go west, you're in the mountains. If you go east, then you're in like duck hunting, whatever the plains type things are. So it's always a different type of scenery depending on which direction that you go. So you can always just get out of town and relax and see something new.
Yeah, I've lived in like West Arkansas. I lived in Texas, and I've lived in like West Arkansas, Northwest, and then I've lived in like Southeast Arkansas. And really, Little Rock, like you could go whichever direction and get whatever you need. If you want, there's a lot to do in Little Rock, but if you want to go hunting, I mean, you just drive like 45 miles and you're in Stuttgart, Arkansas, and that's like the duck hunting capital of the world, or they claim that they are. And, or you could go just south 1 hour, you're in Hot Springs, and there's these baths that you can take. I've never done it, but it's on my to-do list. So, I mean, there's a lot to do here, and you're not just like an hour away from a lot of other really cool things. So I think I had no idea that Arkansas could be so diverse until I kind of moved around, and it was like, I feel like I'm in a different state. But being in the capital, you kind of get to experience a diverse population, and then you can kind of go find different pockets of things to do, which is kind of very surprising to me. So.
Yeah, I like all of those things. I like I said, I live really close to the law school, so I have access to all those microbrewers and those specialty cocktail places within walking distance, and so I utilize that a lot. But one of the things that I found surprising and actually really like about Little Rock is that if you are civically minded, if you like civic engagement, Little Rock has a place for you, and you can be more engaged than you really would believe possible in a capital city. Just by being a law student, you are going to have access to, regardless of what your political leanings are or what kind of interests you have. There's Heifer International is right around the corner, huge nonprofit. There's all of those things are accessible, and there's people that will help you get involved if that's what you want to do. When I moved here, there was the Little Rock mayoral race that got national attention. And at our little neighborhood meeting that I started going to, I met all the mayoral candidates. Now they all know me by first name, and and that doesn't happen in other places. I've lived all around the country as well, and usually you have to work and work and work and know somebody and things, but Little Rock just has so much going on. I mean, Central High desegregation history is here. The Clinton School of Public Service puts on a speaker series, and they're always having just fascinating people come and talk on the highest level of so many different subjects, whether it be politics or science or mathematics. It's really a fascinating place, and a lot of times it's that's fun to live. If you're an academically minded, it's fun to take a break from the stuff you have to do and just hear someone's give a fun lecture on something. But all of that is very accessible, and so to me that's something that Little Rock will always have a special place for me, because that's very unique, I think, to Little Rock.
Awesome points. I think for me, what I found most fascinating was a little bit of everything that everyone else just said. I just didn't expect that I would enjoy living here. I really didn't. And as Dean Biner mentioned, when I came here and I just saw all of the little specialty shops and restaurants, I realized, yeah, Jersey doesn't really have much, other than the big names, the Dunkin' Donuts and the Olive Gardens and the Red Lobsters. There's very, very little that you can find about specialty shops, unless you go to this much smaller towns, which I didn't live in. So, but yeah, it really it's a growing charm, is kind of how I describe Little Rock. It definitely grows on you. The more you explore, the more you allow yourself, of course, with balance, the more you allow yourself to get out there and to experience new things. Then he asked a question about the weather and the seasons. I actually was about to ask our panelists about that, but just for those who are not seeing the chat, Melody has graciously answered, and she says, you almost have all 4 seasons. There's a strong summer, a weak winter. We haven't had snow in a couple of years in Central Arkansas. Oh, and she also lived in Alaska. Yes, she did. So her definition of weak winter might be relative. I agree, again, being from the Northeast, but I'm sure her winters were a lot worse than whatever I experienced. So yeah, it snowed, I think, my 1L year, but I mean, the snow left and disappeared in 3-4 hours. So, I never have to shovel anything, which is what I don't like to do. It's never that bad. And it's relatively nice. So, But at the moment, I do want to open it up for questions from the audience. If you have questions for any of us about what it's been like transitioning from another state to Little Rock or transitioning to law school. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. So I'm one of the I'm an incoming 1L student I currently am from Middle Tennessee. I live about 40 minutes south of Nashville, but I did my undergrad at in rural central Pennsylvania near Hershey. And so my question is how easy is it because I'll be basically looking at apartments, kind of single by my near the law school, since it's easier to kind of commute and whatnot. But how easy is it to kind of get acquainted in the local community and whatnot, and kind of make connections?
Sure, that's a great question. Cody, I think you had spoke about something along those lines earlier. Would you like to touch on that?
Sure, yeah. So depending on where you get an apartment, there's a couple different neighborhoods that kind of surround downtown Little Rock, but it is surprisingly easy to, I don't know, it depends on what you want to get into, but again, whatever your interests are, you can get involved with the community. So right across from the law school is MacArthur Park, and there's a MacArthur Park group that meets, I think they meet often. They might even meet once a week, but they meet, I think on Fridays, but they're great people. There's a hostel on the edge of MacArthur Park that they're really working on improving. And then they're also redoing an arts center, a huge project, like $38 million or something, redoing the arts center. It's beautiful. They've put a lot of work into it. And and then just south of the law school is Petaway, which is where I live, and there's a neighborhood association. There's always something going on, people trying to do things. There's community gardens around that you can get involved with. I think in MacArthur Park, they just paved a new soccer, like it's outside, but it's made for indoor soccer kind of, and for bike polo. So I know there's a bike polo group and that meets over there. There's tons of opportunity, and really Little Rock, you still have a little bit. I'm not from Arkansas, so you still have a little bit of the Southern hospitality. Is that if you want to be involved, they're more than happy to have you. So I hope that kind of answers.
Awesome. Lisa, would you like to add to that?
Maybe just a lot of places where I get to meet people are dog parks. And so I think, you just kind of have to go out there, and people are really nice. And I know that when I drive by most people, they still kind of like wave. And living in a couple different places, it's kind of like, you can kind of tell places are more friendly when everyone's just waving and kind of being, recognizing other cars passing. And so I feel most of the time in most areas when you're in neighborhoods, everyone kind of waves and everyone kind of will talk to you. If you're, at a dog park or if you're at a different location, people are fairly friendly, which is nice.
Yeah, I think also another good way to get in touch with people and connect is take advantage of the student organizations that we have here at Bowen as well. There are a number of different ones, and I'm sure they've probably either changed or added on to them since I graduated in 2016. But certainly that's a really good way to make mentors. That's really a good way to make connections that will last really all throughout your life. I know something that Professor Bowles, who is, she was my civil procedure professor my 1L year, something she mentioned to my class was, these are your colleagues. These are going to be your fellow, co-counsel and things like that. So the connections that you make now while you're in law school, they're going to last a while. So definitely feel free to take advantage of those. Any other questions?
Can I add? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Madam.
I'm going to let Bo answer that question.
Oh, okay. Lisa, I'll get to you in a minute. Has the incoming class Facebook page been created yet? I believe Melody and I spoke about that yesterday. I don't think it has been created yet. Melody, am I right or wrong about that?
It is imminent. So usually we wait till the last little bit of our class is firmed up, and then we get going with that. I always like to say it gets started in a J month. So there's not a hard start on that, but it is on the horizon. And you will have an invitation for that or an announcement about that in a Monday email.
Thank you. Lisa, you wanted to mention something?
Right. So one of the biggest struggles that I know that I was kind of worried about before I started was like, where am I going to find a dentist? What about my eye doctor? Different things. I'm just making this place home, and joining a student organization and also becoming an ambassador for the school and kind of giving the tours. I got to meet upperclassmen who had the best information on where to eat and, what classes to take if I'm interested in certain things, and where they go to an eye doctor and who can get you in, the quickest. And Melody's also giving me her dentist, which I love. So that kind of really helps if you're trying to meet people and kind of get situated and making Little Rock your new home. Just kind of meeting as many people as possible and just seeing what they say, what they recommend, and then I guess checking if they're a network. So.
Awesome, thank you. We have about 9 minutes now. Are there any other questions before we say our final goodbyes?
I have one more. Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Will the law school be open this summer for tours at any point? Do y'all know yet?
At this point, we are not certain. I think it's going to be leaning more so towards the no side of things than the yes side of things. But we are in the process of looking into virtual tours. And also we are in the process of setting up a way for students to sit in on classes. So even though you're not able to actually physically be in the building, you will have an opportunity to sit in on a class if you are interested. We're getting that together with the professors, as well as looking at ways to promote that, whether it be on the website or one of our social media pages, as well as the virtual tour. Mm-hmm. But of course, the admissions office is still available to you. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to email me. My phone is not quite yet set up, but I do have access to email. And of course, Melody, who has been with you from the start, she is not going to leave you now. She will definitely go ahead and assist you in any way that she can as well. And for those of you who do not have my email address, which is probably over half of you, my email address, if you would like to reach out to me, is as my first name, oboh@ualr.edu. Okay. And I believe someone else had a question.
I was just going to ask. I'm not sure if any of you had children when you were going to or moving to Arkansas as well, and I have 3, so I'm just curious on like how the scene is for children, like activities and so forth. One of the reasons I chose Cabot was because they were highly rated for their education in the elementary, middle school, and high school, so that's why I went there. I don't know, but trying to get some info.
I got this one. I got a bunch of kids. So this is an incredibly kid-friendly part of the country. So I had soccer players, baseball players. I have one child who was improvisational theater was his thing, and there is definitely something for everyone. My oldest, my daughter, is actually a scientist, and she did summer camps at the Museum of Discovery based on science, different science areas. There's all kinds of really wonderful sports, arts, and even science-related enrichment activities here in Central Arkansas. So it's a great place for kids. It's a very, very kid-friendly part of the world.
Thank you, Dean Biner. Any other questions or comments or concerns? Melody has entered into the chat. Admissions has a slogan: if you have questions about applying, about Bowen, about Little Rock, or life, just ask and we will try to help you. And that's definitely what we are aiming to do here, just provide you all of the relevant information that you need. So if you do have any questions after our meeting today, definitely feel free to reach out to me or to Melody or to one of our ambassadors, and we will do our best to answer your questions. But I think that's about it. I don't see any other questions. So yes, it was a pleasure to meet you all and to have this lovely conversation with you. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Take care, everyone.
Thank you for coming, people. Have a good day.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.